morning, everybody. It is a little bit after 6 a.m. here in Chicago on a Wednesday. Today, I'm heading up to the track for the first time in over 20 years. I'm gonna put on some spikes. First set complete. I'm doing 200, 200, 400 with equal distance jog recoveries. Also cranked down the pace a little bit, shooting for 80 seconds for the 4s and 42nd for the 2s. 3 more sets to go. Second set complete. I think I'm messing up the recoveries, but I'm going to do the jog recovery afterwards. So I ran a 400. I'm going to jog a 400. But I've been walking the first 100 pretty much after like the first or second rep within the first set. Because it's hot. Well, it's not that hot, but it's really humid out here. 1 more 400 left. Let's go. Now that the workout is complete, let's take it back inside, take a look at some of the numbers from the workout, and see how the Adidas Avanti mid-distance spike did for today's workout. And the main reason I wanted to get this shoe is not because I want to start reviewing spikes. Far be it, I'm not particularly interested in reviewing spikes regularly from this point on, but I am registered for a steeplechase, a Masters steeplechase, since I'm a little bit of an older runner. And I felt like, you know what, I can't show up to that race in like regular running shoes. I also not exactly sure, I'm sure I could look it up, it would take 5 minutes to figure it out, but I'm not exactly sure what the stack height maximums would be, or if they're gonna be enforced at this particular event that I'm gonna be running this steeplechase in. So I thought, you know what, let's just eliminate all doubt and get some spikes on and start getting used to them. So that was the whole point of today. I went on to Running Warehouse because they have a lot of spikes available there. And I just kind of looked at middle distance spikes since the race is going to be a 3,000 meter steeplechase. And from there, I just kind of picked one of the ones that was available and in my size. And that's how I ended up with the Adidas Avanti. I know that there's a lot of other fantastic spikes that are hitting the market right now. Some of them may be on professional athletes' feet, but not yet on the market. So there's a lot of stuff kind of happening, but we're gonna leave all that aside and we're instead just gonna talk about this little guy here. It's the first time I've put on spikes, like I mentioned earlier in the video, in several decades, well, 2 decades, but a little bit more than 20 years. I was a pole vaulter for a very brief time at a Division III school in college. So for that, I used to wear spikes regularly. But since then, since I hung those up, I haven't put on a pair of spikes since. And it was, I would say, nice to get back into spikes. I thought that I would kind of hate it. It would bring back a lot of bad memories or like uncomfortable, painful memories, like just of suffering on the track. Not just in pole vault, but in other races that I've run previously, like back in high school. But, you know, it was nice to get in there. For this shoe, there are 4 areas for spikes to be inserted into this. The shoe comes with 3/16 inch spikes and a spike wrench. I've already lost one of the spikes on the right shoe. It fell out completely after the run. And on the left side, it started coming out, but I think I stepped on it, and now it seems to be cross-threaded and kind of stuck in there. I think it'll probably come out just fine with the spike wrench, but I think it has to do something with the way my foot kind of like twists as part of my foot strike. My foot strike isn't that clean, and I think that's what did it, and that's why on each foot that particular spike is either fell out or started to fall out. And the spikes are kind of like taking a little bit more of a beating than I would expect from after just one workout. But, you know, I'm not overly concerned about it. I'll probably wear these shoes maybe 1, maybe 2 more times before my race. That's going to be going on at the end of the month. Up top, we have a pretty unique upper, something that I've never seen before from Adidas. The material, it looks delicate. It looks kind of like those desserts where like there's like paper you can eat, that kind of thing. It looks just like if you touch it wrong, it's just gonna shatter and crumble, but it's super stretchy and super strong. There's all sorts of structure and support of elastic kind of bands that are going throughout the midfoot cage, and there's just a ton of lace loops. More lace loops than I know what to do with. I just kind of went with how the shoe came laced, and that worked out perfectly fine for me. Around back, there's a micro suede and like a little bit of like a pull tab on the back here, which I'm kind of really liking, although I feel like it's really weird to see this on a spike. And then for the midsole, we've got 16 millimeters of boost that's in this shoe, which makes sense because it's not necessarily a sprinter spike, but it's meant for, I think, everything from like the 800 up to the 10K is how it was listed, at least on Running Warehouse. And then on the outsole, instead of outsole rubber, we've got the kind of like the spike plate, which not only holds the spikes, but also has just other different grooves in it and kind of like pointy bits to help aid and give some more traction as well. I believe this spike plate is made out of P-backs, like a hard P-backs, that is going to be acting a little bit kind of like a carbon fiber plate. Putting all those things together, this shoe comes in at a stated weight of 4.8 ounces, which is crazy light, but that's for us men's size 8. I went with my usual men's size 9, and I thought that was the perfect size for me. I always get the same size in all my Adidas shoes. I was really expecting, though, with spikes that I'd feel like they were too big. This ended up being fine, and it also ended up feeling like I had a decent amount or a reasonable amount of room, at least in the toe box. Very snug, which you want it to be for a racing shoe, especially of a racing shoe of kind of like this kind of caliber when you've got spikes in it. But I felt like there was plenty of room in there. The upper felt fantastic. Once I had them on, they felt like they were just a part of my foot. And it was like my foot had kind of grown claws underneath, and I was just able to run super fast by gripping into that track. So it was a really nice sensation. The boost, it doesn't really like feel like boost because there's not a ton of it. Although if you think about 16 millimeters of boost being, at least that's what it says, is in the forefoot for this shoe, that's more boost that's in like the Takumi Sen, I think, or the RC 2.0. I'm not sure. One of those two, I think, is a 14 millimeter stack height shoe in the forefoot. So I'm not exactly sure what those numbers really mean, but it does feel like I'm reasonably well cushioned for a spike, and I do feel like this is going to be able to take me to that 3,000 meter distance with even all the jumping that I'm going to be doing over the barriers for the steeplechase. The spikes felt nice to run in. I thought it would be a little bit more awkward than it was, but like I guess it was kind of like riding a bicycle, because once I got out there with the spikes laced up, I felt like, you know, I hadn't skipped a beat. I was able to run in them just fine. It does make you want to stay on your toes, because if you think about it, they're stated as having a 0mm drop, but if you think about a spike, it really has like a negative drop. Like if you put it on the table, it leans backwards because you are supposed to be up on your toes. It felt like I was running on rails. It had that kind of like super shoe kind of feeling to it because it's got that rigid kind of plate in it, the P-backs plate. But it wasn't quite as like pronounced or as like bouncy, kind of like pushing me from behind, like I like to feel from a lot of the carbon plated super shoes. But it definitely felt like there was a little bit something there. I also felt like there was no way I was going to slip on anything while I was out there because the spikes are kind of digging into the track surface. But really it just felt like I was like one of those little characters, like those hockey guys that just kind of go up and down the thing and you can make them spin. I felt like I was on a track, but it was an oval track. So I just felt like, you know, I could just like glide down around the curves and down the straights for this. I mean, I was working hard, but it just felt like, you know, it was a lot more effortless, or it felt like there was less effort required to kind of hit some of the paces. And I just felt like I was like at one with the track. I was just one piece of it. And so it was a very different sensation to some of the other workouts that I've done on the track in the past couple of weeks. The other thing I'll say is in regards to some of those efforts, I felt like for today, I was shooting for 40 seconds for the 200s, which is not, you know, earth shattering, then 80 seconds for the 400s. With the numbers, I feel like I hit all of them. I think I was over on one of the 200s, but on the 200s, I was really just pulling back and trying to keep things nice and easy. And on the 400s, that's when I was really kind of putting a little bit more effort in. And I feel like I did really well. I was way under on all of the 400s. So, you know, in one way, I kind of messed up the workout, but in another way, I felt like, okay, all right, I can actually do this. I felt like 80 seconds for the 4s was quite a bit of a difference from some of the other workouts that I'd done previously. So even that was kind of an aggressive push. And to come in underneath that for the 400s that I did have throughout the course of today, you know, not that it's a contest, you know, and like beating the splits isn't really, you know, the most prudent thing to do every single time. But in terms of me just kind of like get my legs back and trying to get reacquainted with spikes and being on the track and kind of cramming in a way of speaking for the steeplechase coming up, I feel like, you know, it's working. It's not, well, it's working for, I don't know if it's working in terms of a productive sense, but I feel good about it. It's confidence inspiring. So it was fun to get out there on the track today with some spikes. I definitely felt like I got a lot of weird looks while I was out there because they're like, who's this guy who's not really running that fast, but is like dressed up head to toe as if he is, and also is running with a selfie stick. So, you know, I had a little bit of that today, which is not that unusual for me to get, but I had a lot of fun getting out there and getting reacquainted with an old type of shoe that I haven't seen in quite a while, the Spike. So that's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of the video. Hopefully you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and I'll see you in the next one.
Yo, what's going on?